Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska, and this is the news. Exactly a week from today, it will be 1 year since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In the shadow of the war, the 59th Munich Security Conference kicked off. The conflict and the question of how to deal with Russia in the future. These are the main topics of the three-day meeting of world leaders, but also representatives of the military, science experts, and the media. The event in the Bavarian capital is dominated by discussions of the international situation almost a year after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In addition to world leaders, leading figures from academia, business, and civil society are taking part in the conference. From the beginning, the Security Conference has always been a place of understanding and dialogue. What is new is that it is happening at the same time that Russia is waging an aggressive war against Ukraine on European soil. This is new, but it raises the stakes of the conference even higher. This year's meeting is obviously marked by the war in Ukraine. We also noticed this with the demonstrations taking place this weekend. There are more than 20 of them from different camps, which we will accompany. This is also relevant to the event taking place behind me at Bayerischer Hof. We have to protect more than 45 heads of state and government who will be staying in more than 16 hotels here in the city. The conference began with a speech by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Along with him at the opening ceremony were German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, and French President Emmanuel Macron.
It's a time for Ukraine to be a full-fledged part of the European Union. Most Europeans support membership for Ukraine. We have already gained the status of a candidate country. We are already preparing to start membership negotiations. We are already united with the European economy, logistics, and energy.
Poland is represented by President Andrzej Duda and Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. The Polish president is currently on the diplomatic offensive. Yesterday, he met with UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and today he spoke with King Charles III. I spoke with the Prime Minister about the reconstruction of Ukraine. I said that I hope for British support in being part of this coalition of countries that will participate in these processes to help rebuild Ukraine. In this regard, we are a key transit country in terms of communication of the West with Ukraine. For several days, Poland has been living with the news of the visit of the President of the United States, Joe Biden, to Warsaw. Moscow and Minsk reacted allergically to this news. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko invited Biden to Minsk, where he will hold a summit meeting with the Russian president. The White House has not yet commented on this cursory proposal. Biden will stay in Poland because Poland is a hyena of Europe. Today it plays the most active role aimed at escalating the war in Ukraine. Now it shouts louder than the Americans do. So I invite you and your presidents to Minsk. We will ensure complete security and comfort. And the main thing is, he will leave here very satisfied. According to unofficial information, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, is also scheduled to visit Warsaw at the same time. This would be Volodymyr Zelensky's first visit to Warsaw since the Russian invasion of Ukraine began. Aleksander Woyak, TV Republika. C40 Cities is an association of mayors of nearly 100 large cities, including Warsaw, which in its report proposed drastic changes in the way residents live, from reducing meat and dairy consumption to giving up cars. City Hall generally agrees with the thesis of the report, while explaining that it contains only non-binding recommendations. The C40 Cities Association brings together 100 cities from around the world. Among them is Warsaw. The organization has created a report that envisions two scenarios. Both are expected to lead to a drastic reduction in greenhouse gas emissions starting in 2030. Progressive target per person per year: 16 kilograms of meat, 90 kilograms of dairy, 8 pieces of clothing, 190 cars per 1,000 people, flying by plane once every 2 years. Ambitious goal: per year per person, 0 meat, 0 dairy, 3 pieces of clothing, 0 cars, flying by plane once every 3 years. President Rafał Trzaskowski revealed, I think, the outline of the Civic Platform program, just so scrupulously hidden from the polls. And this may be called in a moment probably the North Korea program. Plus, I will only remind you that Mr. Rafał Trzaskowski, in addition to being the mayor of Warsaw, is also vice president, vice chairman of the Civic Platform. The capital's mayor, Rafał Trzaskowski, assures that the C40 Cities Association report is not mandatory for Warsaw. We are dealing with some recommendations that are completely not legally binding for anyone, which speak only about what the future may look like in terms of counting emissions. Warsaw has not made any commitments on this issue. Once again, no commitments on this issue. However, earlier at Campus Poland of the Future, the vice president of the Civic Platform praised the association's radical ideas. Regarding the issue of climate neutrality, it's the only city in Poland that has said 100% yes to 2050. I know it's not ambitious as much as we would like, but in Poland, no one has said that, and we are preparing for it step by step together with C40, the organization that is the most ambitious when it comes to fighting global warming. We have a precise plan on how to get there. When we govern, it will be faster. Such proposals are in line with policies pursued by the European Union. This week, the European Parliament voted to ban the sale of internal combustion cars starting in 2035. I unfortunately regret to say that if he analyzes the EU documents today at the level of our ministry, it is clear how from year to year it is written out and how it is to be implemented. But today, ladies and gentlemen, it is written out even for weeks and for months. The Polish government disagrees with the C40 Cities Association's proposals. Simply some kind of going back to the times when there were no various achievements of civilization, and these proposals were to be signed by Rafał Trzaskowski as the president of Warsaw. Civic Platform politicians believe that the issue of the report is a substitute topic. It is the Poles who will freely choose what they eat, what they wear, what they travel with. Of course, the issue of reducing the greenhouse effect, the fight for the climate, is our common goal, the goal of the government, the goal of the parliament, the goal also of local governments, including the city of Warsaw. Far-left circles have long made it clear, veganism must be mandatory. We're all about sending the entire industry, meat, egg, dairy, back into history. I'm not interested in stories about small farmers and organic farms. Although officially Warsaw City Hall disavows such initiatives, practice shows otherwise. The capital's authorities are famous for making life difficult for drivers, such as by reducing the number of lanes. Such measures are calculated to win over the most radical, pro-environmentalist electorate. There are studies that show this, and this applies not only to Poland. It also applies, for example, to young people of the younger generation, young voters in the Netherlands, or young voters in other countries like Germany, where they are more pro-environment. However, it is also the case that they are pro-environment because for now, it does not cost them. The trend for pro-environmental policies is gaining enormous popularity in Western Europe. However, as Professor Henryk Domański argues, Poland will not be fertile soil for this type of ideology. In general, Rafał Trzaskowski is associated in the popular perception with just such a radical left faction of Civic Platform, which is capable of introducing these demands put forth by the C40 report. The C40 Cities report was compiled 4 years ago by English researchers at the University of Leeds. It is possible that their research hypotheses will become our everyday reality. Earlier today, there was a warning strike at Germany's airports. Major airports such as Frankfurt, Munich, Hamburg, and Stuttgart closed today. LOT Polish Airlines has canceled flights between Warsaw and Frankfurt, Munich, Hamburg, and Stuttgart. A one-day warning strike has paralyzed 7 German airports, as announced by the Verdi Labor Union: Frankfurt, Munich, Hanover, Stuttgart, Bremen, Hamburg, and Dortmund. According to airport union estimates, up to 300,000 travelers were affected by the strikes. At least 2,340 flights were not operated. At the huge Frankfurt airport, only a few humanitarian aid flights for earthquake victims in Turkey and Syria were handled. Also in Munich, as well as at other airports, all flights had already been canceled. Passengers were asked not to come to the airports. Through the strike, the unions want a change in the terms of the collective bargaining agreement for ground handlers and flight safety supervisors. The unions are demanding that wages increase by at least 500 euros. The strike is expected to end tonight. We are here because we had enough. We earn too little, and inflation is much higher. That is why we are here, to get a bit more money to be able to feed our families normally. Yes, because our pay is ridiculous. We get far too little money for the work we have to do.
Es gab kein Angebot der Arbeitgeber, über das wir überhaupt...
There was no offer from the employers that we could even talk about, and that is a great impertinence. Unfortunately, the passengers have to pay the price, but the employers are responsible for this, because in Berlin, for example, an agreement was reached last week, and there will be no strike at the airport today. So we assume that if the employers don't move, there will be more strikes also before Easter. We hope for a quick agreement, but the signal now goes very clearly to the employers.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, have a wonderful evening.